Good morning, Chair. Are you well today?
Morning, morning. I'm well, thank you. And you?
Just a bit chilly. I'm in Durban. I'll be leaving for Cape Town. So I'll be very quiet today. I want the meeting to proceed quickly.
Well, this is something the department will explain to us because there are some of our members that don't understand the new agency. So I think that is more an explanation session that we have today.
So it's just that one item, eh? The issue of the bucket eradication program. I saw we had an email about that. We're not discussing that today. It's
No,
just
no,
an,
no, no.
you
We're
know.
just going to discuss this one item. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Reddy, my friend,
You must
my
say
lovely
honorable. You must
one.
say honorable.
What are you saying?
You must say honorable. Honorable. How,
My dear Honorable Reddy
how,
Vispas, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself, you're looking well as usual. Your
Because when
blue.
you are in water, you must not look ugly. Eh?
No, 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 you can't. You can't. You
If
can't.
you are in the portfolio committee of water, you must look just classic
Mwah.
like water.
Just
Ah,
look. Mwah. All right. I'll see you in the
thank
meeting.
you, thank you, thank
All
you.
right.
And mute your video before we hear what you are saying there. Yeah, Ubaba is giving instructions. Yeah.
Morning, Minister. You are starting early this morning, chirping him.
I have to respect my chair and the portfolio committee and look very live and fresh in the morning, chair.
Well, you also feel fresh or seems to be fresh. Had a
I
good
am very
night
fresh.
rest.
I'm very fresh. I don't seem to be fresh. I'm very fresh, Jefferson.
That's good.
Thank you, chair. Thank you, chair.
Good morning, honourable members, officials of Parliament and Department of Water and Sanitation. You're most welcome to this meeting this morning. Myself and the Minister had a discussion, I think about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and the Minister felt that she would like to unpack the agency and how we will go forward with TCTA and the new agency. So we created the opportunity to have the Minister and the department to come and do a presentation on the agency. And that is the main reason why we are here today, is to make sure that we understand the working of the new agency. Nosipu, is there, well, before I get to apologies, may I ask that we have a moment of silent prayer or meditation? Thank you. Nosipu, any apologies?
Good morning, Chairperson. Yes, we have an apology for Deputy Minister Mahlobo. He is in Spain on an official business. And there is also an apology for Deputy Minister Seitlulo. He has a scheduled appointment at the University of Northwest regarding his studies. That is all, Chairperson.
Yeah, I see Honourable Deputy Minister is on here. Maybe we'll then leave earlier. We then accept those apologies. Any other apologies? It seems there's none. Can I then ask that, Minister, I will now hand over to you. Like Honourable already said, he's not going to ask a lot of questions today. So it could mean that someone else will take up that position, or we will be finished early. Thank you very much, and you are welcome now to start with your presentation.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members. Thank you very much for this opportunity. The DM, the team led by the Director General, we really appreciate, Honorable Chair, the opportunity to take the Portfolio Committee on board on the reforms. This is come as a result of Vulindlela Part 2 or Phase 2, that of ensuring that water sector, as it is classified under social as well as economic cluster, because of the importance of water. These reforms, Chair, is not different from other reforms in other departments. For instance, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, we will remember that in the past, the security grants that were paid in different areas by different entities. But there was a time where they had to be brought together. Hence, you have the SASA, which is an agency that do things from the central point. When the road infrastructure was so fragmented, then the government came up with SANRAL. Hence, you will see SANRAL being the lead in terms of the national road. This is not different from that. And as we speak right now, Chair, there is this reform on the disestablishment of the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority and transfer it to the South African National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency. This follows the adoption, as I said, Chair, of the Act in May 2024, which you are familiar with, Chair, because you have been in this committee, and the President proclaimed this Act in February 2025. This new agency will address the current fragmentation of asset management and revenue collection functions for the national water resource infrastructure. Currently, Chair and honorable members, these functions are fragmented between the TCTA the water entity, and the department. So it is in three fragmented entities. But now this agency will coordinate all and have one single entity. The role of this agency will be as stipulated in the Act number 34 of 2024. Amongst others, this is what this agency is going to do, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. It's going to provide, operate, and maintain national resources infrastructure in a manner that takes account of national development objectives. It will also include the mitigation of climate change and the other risks that are reliable for that are a risk for a reliable water supply. This will be done by ensuring maintenance, refurbishment, rehabilitation, and betterment strategies and programs that are going to be developed continuously. And programs are going to ensure that the Chapter 11 of this Act, of the National Water Act, number 36, is taken care of, that of providing for a uniform framework for the management of immovable asset that is held or used by the national and or provincial department or any other entity. Honorable Chair, this will also ensure a sustainable, equitable, and reliable supply of water from the national water resource infrastructure. Once all the staff, assets, and loan, as well as agreements, have been transferred from the TCTA to the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency, then the TCTA will be closed down. Until then, the TCTA will continue to exist because we cannot allow vacuum in this space of the water sector because of the role that the TCTA is playing right now. The transfer of functions from both TCTA and the department will need to be managed carefully from both sides. And you are going to ensure, Chair, that happens smoothly. The term of office for the current governing board of TCTA is expiring in December 2025. The board term will be extended until at a time where NWRIA is fully established as to avoid unnecessary disruptions of especially the mega projects that TCTA is responsible for. On the part of the department, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we are in a process of gazetting a notice and advertising in two national newspapers for the nominations to apply to become a member of the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency. And the current members of TCTA are encouraged, Honorable Chair, to apply. There will be no automatic absorption that just because a person served in TCTA, therefore has an entitlement. No, everyone will go through application and be subjected to interviews. The DWS and TCTA have developed a roadmap that the DG is going to outline in terms of dates and months, because we want to ensure that we move step by step and don't leave anything unattended to. The DWS has put in place a governing structure with TCTA to manage this transition. Transition can be very sensitive and complicated, but we want to ensure that there's no one that is left outside. We have to come up with this management committee or governing structure that will ensure that each and every item is taken care of. As we're doing that, we have established 6 streams, work streams that are going to ensure that each and every component is attended to. We'll have a stream that is going to work on finances, IT, technical and operations, the human resource, the legal, the labor and all that, because we want to bring everything on board. When we TCA hand over to the new agency, everything must have been done. As I finish, Chair, we want to ensure that the risks that are there are mitigated, but also to communicate broader. As you are aware that there are certain employees of the department that will be part of this new agency. These work streams will also include members of both DWF and TCTA that meet at a regular basis. We wanted to update the portfolio committee to know each and every step that we are taking, so that if there are certain risks that members might have observed, they must advise us for us to have a smoothless process. I thank you very much, Chair. The DG will outline all the processes. Thank you.
Thank you. Before DG, Honorable Reddy, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I just thought, in order for us not to raise too much of controversies, maybe if I could just explain to the presenter to please focus on these, because we've gone through this presentation, but focus on this. Why was TCTA created in the first place? What difference will the new entity have that TCTA cannot, what can the new entity do that TCTA cannot do? Thirdly, what is the cost of this change from TCTA to this new entity? And fourthly, from our experience, we found, or I know for a fact that the department or the minister, it becomes a political decision. You don't like members of a board, or you got certain personal interests on certain issues, you then come with refiguration. So convince us that this is not the case, that the entity that you are proposing is actually going to be an improvement from TCTA. Also tell us what the relationship between the department and TCTA has been, whether there's been anything strained there with board members or any issues like that that we need to know that could prompt this merger or
Thank
this
you, Honorable
change.
Reddy.
Thank you very much.
DG, you're more than welcome to unpack this for us in the shortest time that you could do that, so that members could also ask clarity questions. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Chairperson. The presentation is not long. I'm just going to give some opening remarks and try and cover some of the issues raised by Honourable Reddy. And then I'm going to hand over to Eustacia Bofalatos from our Institutional Oversight branch to take us through the presentation. Perhaps before I start, I should just recap the roles and responsibilities with regard to water in terms of the Constitution. So the Constitution is very clear that water services, water and sanitation services are a municipal function. And that includes anything to do with treated water, including the treatment of water itself and the distribution of treated water. The Constitution, read together with the Water Services Act and the Municipal Systems Act and the Municipal Structures Act, provides for that constitutional empowerment of this to be a municipal function to be implemented through the appointment of municipalities as water services authorities by the minister responsible for local government. No one can deliver water services without being appointed as a water services or as a water service provider by a water services authority in terms of the legislation. So we as the National Department cannot construct municipal water and sanitation infrastructure without being appointed to do so as a water service provider by a water services authority, or without being authorized to do so by a water services authority. The water boards, in terms of the Water Services Act, are there to assist municipalities with bulk water treatment and storage infrastructure. they have to be appointed by the water services authorities as water service providers to provide that function. The water boards are providing a municipal infrastructure function on behalf of the municipalities for the reasons of economies of scale. So I just wanted to make it clear up front that constitutionally and legally, it is not the responsibility of the national department or the national government to provide water services. And I thought it important to put that up front to explain why the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency is only focusing on national water resource infrastructure. It's because it's a constitutional and legal requirement for that to be the case. So to go to Honourable Reddy's questions, the TCTA was created in the first place because government doesn't have enough money to build all the national water resource infrastructure. And also, the whole fiscal model of the country is based on the principle that water is supposed to be financially self-sustaining, a bit like electricity. People have to pay for water. Water is a cost recovery function. It's based on the principle of user pays. So in that regard, it wouldn't be right for government to fund all the required national water resource infrastructure. And it was therefore necessary to have a mechanism for private sector money, money that's held in the banks and in the pension funds, to be accessed to invest in national water resource infrastructure. In terms of the Public Finance Management Act, a department such as the Department of Water and Sanitation is not allowed to borrow money. Only National Treasury can borrow money on behalf of the national government and national government departments. However, public entities listed in certain schedules of the PFMA may borrow money. So Eskom, for example, may borrow money. Transnet may borrow money, and the TCTA was also established and registered in Schedule 2 of the PFMA as a public entity, so it would be able to borrow money in a dedicated way in order to invest in national water resource infrastructure. The second question Honourable Reddy asked is, how will the creation of the NWA result in an improvement, and what weakness in the current system is it aimed at addressing? The TCTA doesn't own any substantial assets, and it doesn't have any of its own revenue streams. When it borrows, it can only borrow with the permission of National Treasury and the Minister of Finance. Every so often we get permission from the Minister of Finance for the TCTA's borrowing limits. And the reason for that is because all the TCTA's borrowing is guaranteed by National Treasury, simply because the TCTA doesn't have any assets or revenue streams to underpin its own borrowing. So the main motivation of setting up the NWRIA is to strengthen the institution that's there to borrow money for investment in national water resource infrastructure, to create an institution with a substantial balance sheet and revenue streams that will be in a better position to borrow money on the markets. So we are transferring the ownership of all the national water resource infrastructure assets, the dams that DWS owns. They will, once the NWRIA is fully established, those assets will be owned by the NWRIA. And as the owner of the assets, the NWRIA will also get all the revenue streams from those assets. We get very substantial revenue from the sale of water, of raw water. We sell that raw water to farmers, to irrigators, to major industries, to the water board, sometimes directly to municipalities. When the NWRIA is established, it will own all the dams, and it will also be getting all of those revenues that currently come to the department. It will therefore be an entity with a very substantial balance sheet. And the intention is for that entity with a very substantial balance sheet to borrow on the basis of that balance sheet and the income streams that it will have. So it will be in a much stronger position than the TCTA currently is, which doesn't have a substantial balance sheet and doesn't have revenue streams to borrow. And we are hoping that the NWRA, as it establishes itself as a respected entity in the markets, like the TCTA currently is, will be able to borrow without necessarily getting explicit National Treasury guarantees for that borrowing. The TCTA is currently limited in its borrowing. We would like the TCTA to be able to borrow more, but because it can only borrow on the basis of explicit National Treasury approvals and guarantees, it is limited. And National Treasury is limited in the extent to which it can agree to the TCTA borrowing more, because the guarantees that National Treasury make for loans of entities such as the TCTA forms part of the balance sheet of the country. And when financial institutions internationally assess the country and give us investor ratings, they take the extent to which National Treasury has issued such explicit guarantees into account. And if they feel that National Treasury is taking on too much risk with these guarantees, then it negatively affects the investor rating of the country, and that can increase the cost of government borrowing. So the main aim of creating the NWRA is to have an institution with a very substantial balance sheet and revenue streams, which will be in a better position to borrow and not necessarily with national guarantees, and will be able to borrow more money. When Eustacia presents, she will also talk about some other motivations. Some of them were mentioned by the Minister, such as, for example, rationalization and doing away with the current fragmentation in the management of national water resource infrastructure. But the main primary motivation is to enable more money to be raised on the markets for investment in national water resource infrastructure. So that's basically what the new entity will be able to do that the current TCTA can't do. The final question asked by Honourable Reddy was, what is the cost of change, of the change? There isn't much cost of this change, Honourable Reddy, because we're not creating a net new number of entities. In fact, if you consider the water trading entity in the department as an entity, then we're actually reducing the number of entities, because the water trading entity in the department, the infrastructure branch of the department, and the TCTA are all going to be merged into the NWRA. So you will then have one entity, whereas you previously had three different institutions playing different parts of the single function of managing national water resource infrastructure. It doesn't require any new costs in terms of personnel, etc., because it's about rearranging functions which are already there, rationalizing them, and there aren't the costs that would be established, that would be put in place if you were to establish a completely new entity. And it's going to be staffed through the transfer of the staff who are already engaged in those functions from the TCTA and from the department into the NWRA. So there's very little net cost of this change. With those introductory remarks, Chair, I'd like to hand over to Eustacia to take us through the presentation. Eustacia?
Thank you very much, DG. Yeah, maybe just one additional the question of when it was established. I think it was established in 1986. It was established, TCTA was then established in I think it's in 1986. And I think the then government also moved into the direction that the government now moves to have them one entity, because at the end of the day, I believe that the government will, or the new entity will get money cheaper at a better rate because they've got a balance sheet. That's maybe just in short. Anastasia, you can continue.
Eustacia?
There we go. Apologies for that. It's difficult to unmute. Good morning, Honourable Chair, honourable members, Minister and DM and DG as colleagues. I think both the Minister and the DG covered quite a bit of my presentation, but just to highlight some of the issues that are important, I'll take you through the presentation, especially around the project, our roadmap and project plan. Next slide. Just to give you some quick highlights about how far we are and what we're doing. Parliament adopted the Infrastructure Agency in May 2024, and the President proclaimed it in February 25. The department is now busy establishing the NWRI, operationalizing it, and we've established, like the Minister said, technical work streams. We had 6 initially, but we have 7 now. And we added the IT work stream on its own. They get consolidated at least on a bi-monthly, but from now on every month to report progress in the DG's integrated work stream, so that we can consolidate and align all the work streams. So there's good work that has been made to ensure that we achieve the date of April 2026. The term of the current board of TCTA expires at the end of the year, but we have requested the Minister to extend the term of office until the NWRI is established, and the Act makes provision. The Act makes provision for the NWRA for TCTA and to transfer within 1 year of establishment, but we're hoping to do that before that. Next slide. Next slide. I think the DG mentioned that, or let me just quickly say that NWRA, the need to establish it was already in the National Development Plan, and it's been mentioned in various sodas by our President. It's been supported by the President's Structural Reform Program, Operation Vulindlela 1, and we developed the bill during that time and gazetted it, and now they are phase 2 is assisting us in operationalizing it. The Minister and the Department are required to report to the President and the Presidency regularly, but we also report to the Auditor General. In terms of the rationale, I think the DG covered it quite a bit, but I just want to raise the third bullet to say that the current financial model used by TCTA is to raise finance relies on offtake agreements and explicit government guarantees. And the agency's financial model expands on this TCTA model by leveraging the assets that will be on the agent's balance sheet and revenues associated to the assets to raise finance without necessarily obtaining further government guarantees. And of course, based on the NWRI PFMA listing, the credit ratings, the assets and the revenues, the agency will be able to raise funds commercially. If we go to the next slide, what's important is that we've already had a lot of public consultations to establish the bill. The Presidency approved the SEERS, and it was supported by the Department of Planning and Monitoring. And we went through NEDLAC. NEDLAC approved our report, and government, business, and organized labor and the community representatives were part of that NEDLAC process, which they supported. Next slide. I think one of the key implications of the principles of the Act for the transfer of staff is that there will be a shareholders compact between the Minister and the board, and it will state that all TCTA and department staff must be absorbed and not be worse off, to ensure that Section 36 of the Act and Section 197 of the Act are complied with. The board and the CEO must decide on the organogram, and it will be approved together with the Minister, and it will ensure that we implement the requirements of the shareholders compact in order to make sure that the staff move across to the new entity without being worse off. Next slide. Just to highlight a few objects of the NWRA, and they are in Section 8 of the Act, and that is to ensure that there's a sustainable, equitable, and reliable supply of water from the national water resource infrastructure, that we meet obligations of the Constitution, that we utilize its asset and base cash flow to raise funds to be able to develop the national water resource infrastructure for both social and economic development, and of course to provide, operate, and maintain, and to perform treaty and non-treaty treaty functions that are performed by TCTA. And of course, they may perform any other functions that the minister directs them to. Next slide. Just to highlight what are the functions of the Section 6, and I think I've mentioned a lot of them, but it's to ensure that we create jobs and ensure create jobs in the national water infrastructure development process in alignment to NDP and the growth, and to manage an asset inventory and information systems, and to ensure that and to ensure agreements with water users and other parties. Next slide.
Nasipo, can you please mute that device, please? My apology. Continue.
If you can go to the next slide. I think what's important is that we've also busy amending the Act. Post the proclamation of the Act, there was a concern around the wording in Section 3.2 of the Act, and National Treasury indicated that this clause creates a legal anomaly and it's ultra virus. So subsequently, National Treasury and the Office of the State Law Advisor and the Presidency agreed that we implement this technical amendment so that we can have the correct wording. And the bill was introduced into Parliament on the 24th of April, and it has been estimated, we estimated it will be finalized by July 2025. We know the portfolio committee advertised for submissions, and the due date for closure is the 15th of July. In terms of parliamentary processes and procedures, to establish an entity, we need to develop a policy and a business case. We developed a business case together with TCTA stakeholders, National Treasury. Our previous Minister Mkhunu, approved the business case in January 2024. It was submitted to National Treasury, and National Treasury has indicated that it does support a business case, but it would like to be viewed like a living document as the process of establishing an NWR proceeds. The financial, what is very important, the financial model of the business case includes, ensures that there's financial sustainability. But in addition, as part of the consultation to the existing lenders, to the TCTA, the independent financial and legal review was carried out by Ernst & Young, which included the review of our financial model. This independent review reached a conclusion that the financial model was sufficiently robust and the existing lenders would not be worse off as a result of the transfer of their loans into the agency. So therefore, the lenders accepted Ernst & Young report. The NWRI is being established in the context where the financial sustainability of the whole water sector is at risk. The root cause of this is the high non-revenue water in the municipality, as being discussed, and the municipal non-payment, both to the water boards and the department. The NWRI is not immune from the financial risks created by the high non-revenue at municipal level. However, the department, National Treasury, and the presidency are in the view that this should not stop government from proceeding with the establishment of the agency. There are separate government initiatives to address all these issues like municipal non-revenue, debt, and other initiatives. Just to give you a high level of our actions that we're doing, we're busy engaging Lesotho on the transfer of the treaty agreements. Like the minister said, we've appointed, the minister has appointed a nominations committee who's going to recommend to her the board members, after that, the appointment of the CE is done. Once we have done that, we're hoping by January, we will register and incorporate the agency with the CIPC. And thereafter, there will be a shareholder compact signed between the minister and the board, and implement the necessary amendments to the agreements to the satisfaction of the lenders. And I think that's one of the critical steps. We're going to transfer the staff, assets, and loan agreements from the department and TCTA to the NWRIA. And after all of that is done, disestablish TCTA. To manage the transition, the department has appointed a senior dedicated project manager. If you all can remember, we had Mr. Paul Nell, and our new project manager is Mr. Bongani Ngubani. And we've also acquired the services of a financial expert and financial and legal expert to help us with this transition. They helped us with drafting the NWRI bill, and they have got extensive experience of mergers and acquisitions. And we also, in parallel, we're also procuring services of a multidisciplinary professional company to assist us with the transition and to guide us with issues like migration plans, change management, messaging, and any other issues that require expertise. As indicated earlier, there's a technical coordinating mechanism in the department, and we're working through the work streams so that there is alignment and coordination. Next slide. I've mentioned this before, the conditions of transfer set out in section 3612 is summarized that we need to consult the government of Lesotho. We need to make arrangements with the lenders to the satisfaction of the approval of the minister. And already we've started with discussions with lenders. I think yesterday was one of the first meetings. And transfer of staff must be done according to section 197 of the Labour Relations Act. What's important, the next steps are to TCTA should assess all the project agreements and loan facilities which require amendments. TCTA to send letters to the lenders, and like we've said, we've already started that. Some of them require non-disclosure, but we are busy finalizing that. And lenders and National Treasury must engage on these changes, and the necessary legal reviews must be conducted to ensure the amendments are made. The transfer of loan agreements must be confirmed by the Minister of Finance, and the department will lead the consultation with Lesotho with support of TCTA, and we have already started with that process. And these steps are being done in the work streams as well. In the following slides that I'm going to present, and there's about 8 slides, and I'll just highlight some of them are the key project details. The project details are updated with sub-activities. I've got sub-activities and responsibilities, and they are the project manager updates that in MS Microsoft project, and after each work stream. So we have got a detailed Microsoft project program to implement in WRIA. The department, like I said, or the minister will extend the board to ensure that we have good corporate governance, to ensure that we don't mitigate any risks, and to ensure that we comply to the Auditor General and the annual financial statements are set. And next slide. What's important is that we're going to gazette the in the next 2 weeks or so. We're going to gazette the notice to apply for nominations, as well as advertising to newspapers, and the minister has already appointed her nominations committee. I've got 6 slides on these, and I just want to highlight the important milestones. And the one is that we're going to register the CIPC by register the company in the by the to the CIPC, and we're planning to do that by January 2026. We're going to gazette the date of which all the transfers must go across to the TCTA, and then sorry, not to the CTA, to NWRIA, and also gazette the date of TCTA will transfer to the agency. And we're hoping to have done all of that by 1st of April 2026. We're going to also then delist the TCTA by the 1st of April 2026. In terms of the government appointments, I'm not going to go through this. I think I highlighted how far we are with that in our previous slide. Next slide. In terms of human resources, we've already started engaging with labor. TCTA has already done a presentation in December. We have presented to our bargaining chamber, I think, once or twice last year. Our chief negotiator has set up a meeting for next week to carry on with negotiations or with presenting to the bargaining chamber. And there is a review, we're busy with a review of existing department and TCTA policies. So we're not starting from scratch. We're going to use existing policies and make recommendations to the board, because we know the board will are the ones that approve it. Our communications stream will also start with an internal and external communication strategy, and that should be ready shortly, so that we can have good communication with both external stakeholders and internal, and we're planning to develop a migration plan by end of January. Next slide. The finance work stream, I think a lot of this was covered, but we've started already engaging with the lenders. This is the second time we're engaging the lenders. Initially, we engaged the lenders. When we were developing the bill, the act, and now we're doing it in terms of the establishment process. We've got 13 major banks that we're working with, and we're going to review load and offtake agreements and supply agreements together with a legal work stream, and we're hoping to have those in place by at least the 15th of August 2025. We're going to amend current TCTA loans, income and supply agreements to ensure that the roles and responsibility and functions of TCTA are correctly transferred as set out in the Act, and transfer all existing borrowing limits to the agency and the existing guarantees as well, and reaffirm the existing credit ratings on our projects. In terms of the finance workstream, we have a draft, we're going to prepare a draft work plan for corporate plan for the board to approve, and the TCTA will do the consolidate the financial statements of the current, for the current year. Next slide. I think in the IT workstream, I'm not going to go into detail, but there is a lot of work to be done in terms of ensuring that our systems are migrated, and there's an interface between the NWRA and the department, and that all the contracts identify all IT projects and transfer contracts that we have in place, both at TCTA and in the department, and make sure that they move across to the agency. Next slide. In terms of the technical and operational work streams, the agreements with service providers and other entities that are responsible for functions are correctly transferred into the agency as set out in the bill. And as you all know, we update our register regularly for the Auditor General. We are going to ensure that it will be ready to be handed over to NWRA before we transfer the assets. So we are working on making sure that the update of the asset register is in time for the transfer. Next slide. We are busy preparing to see TCTA and the water trading, construction operations and other contracts to the agency. So we are having engagements. There's a subcommittee that the technical work stream has formed to engage with TCTA contractors and both TCTA and the water trading entities, contracts and contractors. And we're going to review and recommend changes to the TCTA contractors. And we're hoping to prepare to see offtake agreements to the agencies, Sasol, Eskom, and City of Cape Town, Radwater, Umgeni, by 30th of September. We also, like I said, sent out letters to start engaging with Lesotho Highlands Water Commission. Next slide. On the 5th of June, we had a big workshop with all our work streams where we updated our risk register and mitigation plans. And after every work stream, we will keep that updated because it's one of the requirements of the lenders to have a risk register with our mitigation plans. And like I said early on, we're going to use our existing policies, review them, and submit them to the board of TCTA for them to approve. Next slide. I think in terms of legal, I've mentioned that we're busy with finalizing, amending the section 3.2 of the Act. And also they are assisting together, legal work stream is working together with the finance to make sure the amendments of these agreements are all aligned to be transferred over to the NWRIA. Next slide. I think in just a high level summary, just because I went fast to do the presentation, just so that we all are on the same page. The memorandum of incorporation has been finalized. It's been signed by the minister. As soon as we've appointed the board, it will be registered. We've already reserved the name of the company, and the advertisement and the Gazette notice has been approved by our minister, and it's in the process of being advertised in the next 2-3 weeks. The risk register is done, like I've mentioned, and we have a draft shareholders compact that has been developed, and that will be then provided as a baseline document to the board when they are established. And of course, the department has completed the detailed identification of units to be transferred to the NWRIA. We also had a big workshop held last week where all the different work streams sat, and we looked at which functions are moving across to the NWRIA and which functions will stay with the department, and that's been circulated between the TCTA and us so that we can finalize that, so that we can have a clear, smooth transition. The chamber meetings have happened. We will then there will be a follow-up. I think Conrad in his work stream are getting ready to present in the next week or two. And once we finalize the functions, the organogram we'll have a draft transitional organogram so that we can consider to guide the board regarding the post required to absorb the staff from the department and TCTA. And like I said already, we started with the lenders engagement, and yesterday was the first one, and we are planning to complete that within the next month. I think those are the main issues that I wanted to highlight. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much. DG, would you like to add something before I go to members?
No, thank you, Chairperson. No, thanks.
Minister, would you like to add something?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, on the concern that was raised before our full presentation was that how were the relations between us as a department and the TCTA? Chair, I can confirm now we have good relations with TCA. There were no tensions. There's nothing personal about these reforms, but they are necessary reforms to bring the fragmented sector into one. There were no tensions whatsoever. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Kobe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to the colleagues, to the department, Honourable Minister, and the Deputy Minister who's here. Chair, allow me firstly to thank the department for coming and presenting the NWRI to us. I think it has always been just, such a haze since last year, August. and I'm really happy to see the progress that they've made so far. I just have two questions on it. Last year, 17 billion was secured through New Development Bank after NWRA was assented into law by the president in August. Just like to know where's the 17 billion and how much of it has been used maybe for this transition or the migration from, I can imagine that this is the offboarding and the onboarding is quite expensive. How much of it was used from this loan, or is the money that is used money that is from the department in terms of the admin costs to ensure that we have a migration or a transition? I'd just like to know which money is the department using to migrate, and where the 17 billion is that was secured last year through the New Development Bank. Also, Chair, I see that the department has an asset register and we've been asking for it for quite a while. We'll just ask that the department share the asset register with us. I am aware that they don't have some of the assets registered where water service authorities are concerned and municipalities, but whichever asset register that they have, it would be great that they share it with us so that we acquaint ourselves maybe well ahead in advance in terms of the costs and the maintenance plans that come from this asset register and so on and so forth. But thank you. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Kobe. The 17 billion that you are referring to was not meant for migration, but it was fundraised for the mega projects, which the DG and CFO might also give more details. How far are we in terms of that expenditure for which projects? I think that will also assist. The asset register will be shared as requested by Honorable Kobe, but we appreciate the fact that Honorable Kobe is saying you can see that since September to now, there is progress, hence we are able to present the roadmap through you, Chair. May I then request the DG to quickly come in and explain the 17 billion and money used for migration? Where do we get that money as from which account in DWS? Thank you.
Chairperson, shall I come in?
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I think the 17 billion that Honourable Corby is referring to is a loan that National Treasury took out with the New Development Bank for about $3 billion or $2 billion. If I'm correct, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I think that's what Honourable Corby is talking about. That money didn't come to us. That loan was taken out by National Treasury and it was channeled through COGTA to the Municipal Infrastructure Grant. So we haven't been involved at all in that loan. As I indicated in the presentation, DWS is not allowed to take out loans. In terms of the law, only National Treasury can take loans with an organisation like the New Development Bank. The migration is not expensive, Honourable Corby. We are managing it in-house. As Eustacia indicated, we have work streams. The process has largely been managed by DWS and TCTA officials. There's a small cost in terms of having the expert advisors that Eustacia talked about, and also the professional service provider to assist us with the very detailed technical matters such as the transfer of the loans and the transfer of assets, and to give us confidence that everything that will be managed properly. But those costs are relatively small, and we'll manage them from our existing budgets in the department. Thank you, Chair. With regard to the asset register is huge. We'll probably have to supply it electronically to the portfolio committee, but we will endeavour to do that. We might have to put it on some kind of memory device and provide it to the PC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Kobe?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know, I think I'm a little confused because when I think Treasury accepted that loan, it was under the name of this new agency that was assented into law. So if there's any confusion there, I just have to maybe reconcile with my facts. But if indeed the money did not come through the department, then maybe I am mistaken. But I think when I read through the facts, is that New Development Bank gave this money it was to be channeled through this new agency. But if I'm mistaken, I do apologize. But I'll reconcile my facts, Chair, and then send through a written a written question if I still need to be clarified on it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. DG, would you quickly like to respond to that again? I think there's another agency that she's talking about.
Yes, Chair. I've checked with the CFO. He confirms that we didn't receive that money. We both think that's the loan that Treasury announced that it took from the New Development Bank, and Treasury later clarified that it was allocating all of that money for water and sanitation services to be funded through MIG under COGTA.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Honourable Moore.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, and thank you, Minister, DG, and your team for the presentation. Chair, I think you're well aware of my concerns around this project, and I think as well the Minister and the DG, because I have voiced it beforehand in the 6th Administration and now, particularly from the presentation side, slide 15 talks to risk. And I think this is my great concern, because the TCTA is essentially a vehicle for doing mega projects and ensuring financing for them. And our department has a problem with projects. The majority of our projects are either delayed or have problems. And I don't say that to be negative. I say that to state the reality of our situation. Now, when we look at the funding that we receive guaranteed by National Treasury, were we a well-known secure lender, were we good at our projects, National Treasury would have a lot more appetite to continue looking after our lending and guarantees. But the reality is there are various problems, and obviously the Lesotho Highlands is an easy target, but it isn't just that project. It speaks to a number of our projects, even WSIG and our big projects. And Chair, I really want to ask, in terms of the risk, particularly as we're moving additional entities into this, the water trading entity, does this entity increase the risk associated with these failed projects by expanding the capacity for loans? And if so, what would happen if we continue to move in the trajectory we currently are? Now, I understand as slide 15 says, the Minister has had the very successful Water Indaba. There is a number of interventions that are in place that are hopefully going to turn the situation around. But I want to say that requires the situation to turn around. Let's assume for a second that we don't turn it around. COGTA doesn't take firm steps and municipalities continue to fail in terms of their water mandate. What are the implications risk-wise for this new entity and water provision in South Africa? Because at the core, Chair, that is my big concern around this entity. Thank you so much.
Minister?
DG, can you come in, because we have discussed the issue of risk every step of in our life. When we take there are risks, but we have to mitigate against those risks. DG?
Yes, thank you, Minister. You're quite correct, Minister. And as Eustacia indicated, one of the work streams is focusing entirely on risk management of the transition process. There's always risks associated with change, but the key thing to do is to be aware of all of them and to mitigate them. So I think Eustacia presented on what we're doing to mitigate the risks of the actual transition. But Honourable Moore's question was broader, also saying, are there risks in the future that the department's unfortunate past with regard to delayed projects would be repeated. Honourable Moore, I don't think the creation of the NWRA increases that risk. If you look at the projects, the major national water resource infrastructure projects which were delayed, most of them were delayed because of DWS, not because of the TCTA. So, for example, DWS and other factors. So, for example, there were various factors why the start of Lesotho Highlands Phase 2 was delayed for 10 years, including, for example, the change in government in Lesotho, but also due to the very frequent leadership changes in DWS during those years, which resulted in some difficulties in getting decisions made quickly. The TCTA has actually got a very good track record for managing projects. It has very good project management capacity, and that capacity will be going over to the NWRA and will continue in the NWRA. I think that track record of the TCTA of project management is a very good thing for the NWRA to build on, and there's no reason why the NWRA shouldn't continue with those same project management staff in the TCTA to manage projects very well as it's been doing up until now. As I indicated earlier, Honourable Moore, we currently sell raw water to a wide range of customers, including irrigators. Honourable Moore, you're aware that 60% of the raw water that we produce in the country that we sell in the country is sold to the agricultural sector, to irrigation. They use 60% of the water. So 60% of the revenues from raw water come from farmers and the irrigation sector. And then there are also major industrial customers such as Eskom and Sasol, who also buy water from us. So the risk of municipalities not paying the water boards is a risk that we need to manage. And as you know, Honourable Moore, we presented to the committee about the various measures, including the withholding of equitable share with National Treasury, to manage that risk and to reduce that risk. But it's not a fatal risk for the NWRA because the revenue. Firstly, what has happened up until to date, is that many of the water boards have absorbed themselves on their balance sheets the non-payment by municipalities. So, for example, most of the water boards will continue to pay DWFs for the raw water, even though they're not being fully paid by the municipalities. And secondly, the sale of water to water boards doesn't make up a major portion of the revenue from the sale of raw water. So while that issue is a risk to the NWRA, which needs to be managed, it doesn't threaten the financial viability of the NWRA for the reasons that I've given. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. DG, could you maybe just explain to members, I think there are members that don't understand the offtake agreements, how we deal with offtake agreements that ensure sustainability with payment of new projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So I'll use the Umkomazi project as an example, which is the new big dam that the TCTA is managing and that it's borrowing money on the markets for, that's going to supply additional water to eThekwini and surrounding municipalities. That project was delayed for a very long time because it had to have take-off agreements agreed to by eThekwini and the municipalities before it could start. Because as I said, the water sector is financially self-sustaining. It's based on the user pays principle. So for the TCTA to construct the Umkomazi Dam and then to sell the water to the Umgeni Utugela Water Board, for the water board to construct additional treatment capacity and then sell treated water to the municipalities, they had to know that they would be able, that the municipalities would be willing to buy the water. But unfortunately, eThekwini municipality refused to sign an offtake agreement for about 10 years because they felt that the water was too expensive. So we solved that problem eventually about 2 years ago by working with the infrastructure fund and going to the budget facility for infrastructure and National Treasury and getting approval that National Treasury would make a contribution from the fiscus to the project, which consists of a loan to the TCTA, an interest-free loan, and also a 25% capital subsidy for the project. And that enabled the offtake agreement, the cost of the tariffs in the offtake agreement to be reduced to the extent that eThekwini municipality agreed to sign the offtake agreement. It's a long-term offtake agreement. So the TCTA is using the Treasury subsidy and the Treasury interest-free loan and coupling that with finance that it's raising in the markets to build the dam. And then the TCTA will then, once the dam is built, we will sell the water to the water board, who in turn will treat it and sell it to the municipality. And the water board will pay currently DWS, but by the time this dam is built, the water board will be paying the NWRA. And the NWRA will use that income from the sale of water, that income will come from the municipalities through the water board to the NWRA, and it will use that income to service the loans that are being used to finance the construction of the dams. Thank you, Chair. I hope that explains it.
Thank you very much. Honourable Moore.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Gigi. As always, I respect the enormous efforts the department is going to turn around the situation. And I really do believe the seeds have been sown and we're seeing progress. But this is not politicking. This isn't trying to belabor a point. The fact is, I still sit here going, you mentioned the Lower Mkomazi Dam, which is a perfect example of a project where the expense of the water was going to be so high that the municipality didn't want to buy it. And in the 10 years it delayed, I promise you that the water would have been more expensive. The reality of these loans is you need to recoup the money. And how do you do that? With the offtake of the water from the agreement. That's where the money is generated. I appreciate National Treasury is coming and getting involved, but there's a limit to what can happen. And our current trajectory is such with I'm not going to say crisis, I'll say challenges across the country, that I continue to be concerned about this space. I'm not going to belabor the point to create a dialogue, Chair, but I want to say I'm still not fully satisfied about this entity not being a great increase to the already high risk situation, and that all of the effort that goes into this project could have been spent on trying to tighten the bolts everywhere else, which maybe would have got us out of the problems we're having faster. And I understand how you need to look both long-term and in the current short, medium term, but I'm still not solved. I will be asking these type of questions in the future, but I really do appreciate the work the department's doing and the explanations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Moore. Honourable Ditebe, and after him it will be Honourable Khumalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to you, to honourable members, the Minister, DG, and Tim. Chairperson, just in respect of the requirements, call them academic and whatever other qualifications of members of the board, what will they look like, given the fact that this is a Schedule B entity, as explained by the DG, and therefore requires a high level of understanding in terms of all the instruments that govern the affairs of companies, particularly in respect of this one, a Schedule 2 entity, and to the extent that this entity can then borrow. Is it allowed to borrow in foreign currency? And to the extent that that will obviously translate into debt, what will be the ratio in respect of domestic and international debt of the entity? What are the restrictions that are imposed by National Treasury as far as that is concerned? And obviously added to that, Chairperson, I take it that the normal manual of National Treasury, the Private-Public Partnerships Manual, taken with the National Treasury's practice notes, etc., will apply in respect of that eventuality. That is, if the NWRA, for example, wants to execute that for purposes of expanding their assets and staying liquid and continuing to fulfill their constitutional and legal mandate. So those are the questions, Chairperson, that I have in respect of this entity. There is just one more question that I have, but I think I'll come back to it if you permit me. But those for now are the questions, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister?
Through you, Chair, may I request DG and CFO to respond?
Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm going to respond to some. I'd like to ask the CFO to help, Frans. Frans, I'm going to ask you to help as to whether the Treasury's PPP regulations would also apply to the NWRA if the NWRA was to do a PPP as defined in the PFMA. And also, Frans, if you can, about whether there's any Treasury requirements with regard to the ratio between foreign lending and local lending. These will be issues, these aren't issues, things that we can specify up front. Then, excuse me, the NWRA is going to have a board, which will be the accounting authority for the NWRA. These decisions will have to be made by the board. We can't make these decisions, such as, for example, their preferences and decision-making with regard to lending. The TCTA currently does very extensive engagements with lenders. It goes on open procurement processes for loans. It goes through competitive processes where the different possible lenders, including government institutions such as the Development Bank of Southern Africa and international development finance institutions and the local banks, they all have to compete to be able to make loans to the TCTA. So the NWRA will also do such processes, and those processes will have to be managed through the NWRA's governance processes, and then they'll be audited by the Auditor General to make sure that they're all above board. It's difficult now to preempt what the results of those processes will be in terms of the ratios of how much lending will be done through from international development finance institutions and how much through local banks and pension funds, etc. There is a section in the Act, Chair, which prescribes in quite a lot of detail what the requirements are with regard to the qualifications of the board members. And we're going to adhere to those requirements in the National Water Resource Infrastructure Act when the advertisement for the board members are done, and when the nominations committee considers the applicants, they will have to apply those qualification requirements in the Act. Eustacia, would you like to elaborate a bit more on the qualification requirements in the Act? Eustacia?
Sorry, yes, sorry, DG. Section 10 of the Act makes provision for the type for the board members, and it says, and it's if I can just read it here. It talks about skills. There must be skills of engineering, engineering skills, attorney, advocate in the at least in the High Court, senior representative of organized business and substantial experience in major water dependent sectors, experienced civil society leaders. And I think if Bronwyn from our legal section can maybe then highlight other experience. We also require governance, audit, legal and risk management, project finance, treasury management and financial management, water resource, infrastructure development and operation management, social development. And so all of those skills will be required to be part of the board when we do this, when the nomination does the selection. There's a terms of reference that the nomination committee has, and it includes the section 10 of the NWRA.
Thank you, Station Bronwyn. Would you like to add?
Thanks, DG. Yes, in addition to the skill set that Eustathia just mentioned, there are further requirements for holistic skills in governance, audit, legal, risk management, project finance, treasury management, financial management, water resources, infrastructure development, operations and management, social development and poverty eradication, economic management and development, corporate governance compliance, operation and maintenance of national water resources infrastructure, human resource management, and environmental management and compliance. So that in addition to the 10 years experience to cover the generational mix and those professional registrations and requirements which Eustathia had just mentioned.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Frans, would you like to come in to assist with the other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, DG. You've already covered the larger part of the question, but I can also confirm that those borrowing powers, they are regulated by the Public Finance Management Act, and the borrowing of those funds and those commitments need authorization. We do get concurrence from National Treasury. There is also from National Treasury, they've issued out an instruction note which outlines the minimum criteria that must be met, and it contains all those details regarding the PFMA stipulations around how the our minister will be forwarding those to National Treasury. The minimum criteria is also listed. So there is a process that we have to go through National Treasury. And regarding the ratio, I think you have covered that as well. Thank you, DG.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, DG. Honorable Ditebe.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to the DG and team for their responses. Just a small technical one and another one related to the earlier set of questions that I asked. When can we expect, therefore, the listing of the NWRA, given the fact that is in terms of the entities, as we know, Schedule 1, 2, 3, Part this and that, just in terms of the PFMA. And the last one, Chairperson, relates to the role of the NWRA vis-a-vis a very important entity, and that being the Water Research Commission. In previous engagements with the Water Research Commission, we've heard of the many interventions, endeavors, etc., that they make in order to guarantee, using obviously science, technology, innovation, to guarantee the quality of water that we drink. And one obviously emphasizes the fact that here we're talking of raw water, but that nonetheless is important even before it gets treated by the water boards, but just overall, so that as and when things unfold, we can, with the passage of time, overcome through STI the seriousness of forever chemicals, microplastics, and whatever other contaminants. So I just want to know whether the coming into being of the NWRIA will see an expanded revenue base, for example, of an entity such as the WRC, which for me plays a complementary role from the point of view of research and development. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, DJ, would you quickly like just to answer on that, and then we finish with that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with Honourable Tetebi that the Water Research Commission plays a very important complementary role. Both we as the department currently and the NWRA are seized on a daily basis with managing and developing and operating the national water resource infrastructure. So it's very useful to have the Water Research Commission there, which is doing research to inform our work and to make what we do smarter. So he's quite correct. It's very important that the two play a complementary role, and that the Water Research Commission endeavours to try and identify the key areas that are of importance for institutions like the NWRA, where they would benefit from research being done by the Water Research Commission. With regard to when it will be listed in the schedule of the PFMA, honourable members will recall that we've indicated that we've got the NWRA amendment bill currently before Parliament, so that to make a minor technical amendment to the wording of the Act, so that the Act itself will enable the NWRA to be listed in the schedule of the PFMA, as opposed to the previous wording which said that the Minister of Finance would list it in the PFMA. So as soon as the amendment bill is passed by Parliament, then automatically after that, the NWRA will be listed in Schedule 2 of the PFMA. Hopefully that could be by about August, September. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Kumalo, and then Honourable Reddy.
Thank you very much, Chair, for this opportunity. Greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, the colleagues and the members of the staff from Department of Water and Sanitation. I would like to as while members have covered me extensively on a number of other points that I wanted to raise, but I'll anyway reiterate what they've said, or just to add a few things that they've said. Look, it's still very difficult for me to accept this entity that we are talking about right now, which is called the NWRIA, for a number of reasons. One of them is the financial risk and over-optimistic funding model. And another one is a structural duplication and bureaucracy, followed by a possible political capture and governance concerns. There's also an unaddressed root causes in water sector, also unclear cost to public and long-term liabilities, and also lastly, disruption and staff uncertainty. I'll make an example on the financial sustainability risk. The presentation does acknowledge the fact that there is municipality non-payment risk, but it lacks the mitigation strategies such as revenue assurance mechanism and penalties. It also does not, there's no mention of contingency plans to lenders or investors who resist loan transfers. So those are the concerns that I feel are not properly addressed here, which I feel they need to be addressed, because we also feel that instead of addressing the inefficiencies that are there, we see that the department, I mean, this entity, we're creating another layer, which should not be there in the first place, in my view. Rather, we should be strengthening what we have so that we can see the results that we need. I'll stop there for now. I'll come back once I've been answered to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister, would you like to speak on the concerns?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to Honorable Nxumalo on the concerns. Yes, indeed, concerns will always be there because when you start a new entity, looking at the previous entities in various departments which might have had challenges, you are obliged to also think that there will be challenges here. There are risks that are involved. The National Water Resource Infrastructure Agent Act of number 34 of 2024 does outline why this agency. Uma ngaba ke sesivumelene ukuthi waphaswa umthetho ukuthi akuxoxwe konke lokho okugcwele yonke indawo kwamanzi kulethwe kube phansi kwehlelo olulodwa, single entity. That will also assist us in terms of central coordination. That is the purpose of this agency. Be that as may, I don't want to rule out or take it for granted what Honorable Nxumalo is raising, that currently there is non-revenue water by municipalities. And the DG earlier on did explain our role vis-a-vis the role of COCTA and those of municipalities. We are going to ensure that, as we have all been doing for years, encourage municipalities to honor their debt. And the DG also explained, Honorable Chair, that the portion of revenue collection, which is the bigger portion, is on raw water. Whilst we take cognizance of the water boards, but they are not a big chunk in terms of the department sale of water for irrigation and other related matters. But we take note of what Honorable Nxumalo is saying, that we must we must calculate properly and ensure that we mitigate against the risks that we take note of. But let the DG add. Thank you very much.
DG?
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a couple of additions to Honourable Nxumalo to add to what the Minister said. Honourable Nxumalo, we won't be creating any additional bureaucracy. There's no new bureaucracy from this. This is about rationalisation of existing institutions, the infrastructure branch of the department, the TCTA, and the trading entity, water trading entity in the department. So there's no new additional bureaucracy being created. The root causes to the water challenges that we have in South Africa are several. There isn't just one root cause. So to address the water and sanitation challenges in South Africa, you need to do a number of different things to address all the different root causes. And I don't think it's possible to, every time we do something, to say that thing that we're doing must address all the root causes. We actually need to do a number of different things, and each of the different things that we're doing address some of the root causes. So this particular thing that we're doing of establishing the NWIA is just addressing one of the root causes, and that one of the root causes is that there isn't sufficient finance available for investment in national water resource infrastructure. And we need to draw more on private sector finance for national water resource infrastructure. There are other initiatives that we're involved in to address other root causes. So, for example, we will shortly be tabling the Water Services Amendment Bill to Parliament, which is the amendments in there are aimed at addressing the institutional weaknesses in municipalities with regard to the delivery of water services. We're also working on developing an independent regulator for the water sector to address the water pricing issues. And there's a range of other initiatives that we're doing, all of which are aimed at addressing specific root causes. It's not correct, Honourable Humalo, that we're not mitigating the risk of municipal non-payment to the water boards. We presented to the Portfolio Committee previously on a number of measures that we're implementing to mitigate those risks, ranging from the Minister regularly meeting with the relevant premiers and mayors, which has had impact in terms of increasing payments and getting municipalities to enter into payment agreements, to agreeing with National Treasury on the unprecedented measure of National Treasury withholding equitable share allocations to municipalities, which I believe in due course is going to have a big impact on the worst non-paying municipalities, to also getting National Treasury agreement on a debt write-off mechanism for the very old debt owed by municipalities to the water boards. So we are mitigating that risk. We have also been mitigating the risk of related to the lenders and making sure that the lenders are comfortable about the creation of the NWRA and the transfer of their loans from the TCTA to the NWRA. We've been engaging continuously with the lenders, as Eustacia indicated in her presentation. On their request, we had an independent study done by one of the major independent accounting firms, which concluded that the lenders would not be any worse off as a result of this creation of the NWRA and the transfer of the loans. And the lenders have accepted that report. The engagements with them are ongoing, but to date, there aren't any of the current lenders, which have said that they actually resist and refuse to have their loans transferred to the NWRA. And I think that's largely because of the mitigation measures that we've been implementing. And also, we're not creating another layer. In fact, if anything, we're reducing the institutional complexity rather than creating new layers of bureaucracy and institutional complexity, because we are merging 3 different institutions which are all involved in the management of national water infrastructure into one. So it's actually de-bureaucratizing as opposed to increasing the bureaucracy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Kumalo.
Thank you, Chair. On the issue of the mitigation of, on the issue of mitigating the lack of payment by the municipalities, can the DG, I'm aware, DG, that we had some meetings as a portfolio committee together with the department where the issue of non-payment was addressed. But what I want to find out from you, DG, can you explicitly or confidently tell this committee that the attempts of making sure that municipalities pay are at the highest level, or let me put it this way, at what percentage are the municipalities responding towards the payment of the services that they receive from water and sanitation? Because if my memory serves me correctly, the last meeting we had, the statistics were not looking very good. But anyway, maybe things might have changed after that. But I just want to find out from you as to what percentage are we talking about here in terms of the payment of the services by the municipality. Thank you.
Yeah, Minister, would you like to answer on that question, since you speak to the premiers, and you're also on the deputy minister's task team or the task team concerning this matter?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Malo, for that question. Chair, there have been ups and downs in terms of that. I have to be honest. Some municipalities, they sign recognition of debt and payment plan. Some they sign and pay lesser than what is expected. But if the portfolio committee needs such an information, Honorable Chair, we will provide that information in detail to say what were the agreements with which municipalities, but also where municipalities at all costs they don't want to service their debt. It is against that background we have agreed through a National Treasury, COCTA, as well as the water task team that is led by the Deputy President, that let their equitable share be withheld. Maybe we must also give a report how many municipalities whose equitable share has been withheld. So, Chair, we don't want to give you half-baked information. Want to give you a very detailed information. If you do allow us, Chair, we can provide that information in a formal written statistics of all those municipalities that are owing the water post. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. DG, would you like to add something to this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We will provide the additional statistics, but I also just wanted to indicate that the most important measure that's been introduced, which is the withholding of the equitable share, was only agreed to with National Treasury relatively recently. National Treasury has only implemented it on 2 or 3 quarters so far, and there were some teething problems in the initial implementation. Also, the debt write-off mechanism for the old debt was also only approved by National Treasury relatively recently. At the moment, one of the main reasons why the debt is still escalating is because the interest on the old debt contributes a lot to the escalating debt. As the debt write-off mechanism starts being implemented, that should result in a reduction in the interest contribution to the escalating debt. So part of the answer is that some of these most important new risk mitigation measures, the withholding of equitable share and the debt write-off mechanism, are going to take some time to kick in. In the meantime, as the Minister has indicated, there have been improvements in some municipalities, and we will provide the detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Reddy?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Minister, and everyone present. I want to speak to my colleagues, the honourable members that are sitting here. From the presentation, I can tell you that I am more concerned now than I was before. In fact, I want to agree with Honourable Moore's concerns as well as Honourable Ngumalo's concerns. They are valid. And basically what the department is saying is that it wants to create an entity to borrow more money. Colleagues, are you aware that in our country, we are paying 1.2 billion rands per day to service debt? And the government, the debt currently sits at 22% of revenue. So what we're doing is creating an entity that says, let's bypass Treasury now because we're not getting enough money from Treasury. Let's create our own entity that will have the power to go and borrow more money. But here is the concern. You know, what we're doing is we are using our water infrastructure like dams as collateral. We're using it as collateral, national assets as collateral to secure these loans. And the reality is that, and if you look at what has been said by my colleagues here, issues like municipalities owing billions to water boards and struggle with payment backlogs. You hear about the increase in non-revenue water. You hear about tariff recovery rates that are declining. All of this points to the fact that the biggest risk that we face is that our national assets are going to become controlled by lenders. Now, I want to share something with you. Two things. One, when we formed the interim eThekwini municipality, I served there. The executive committee went overseas to France, and there were companies in France that were keen to come over and use our assets as collateral and give us all the money we want. But when we analyzed this very carefully and we saw what they did in the rest of Africa, we realized that the sovereignty of these countries were actually given away. Because once they take control of your assets, by the way, they came up with very low rates, tariff rates. And then we said, once we are unable to meet that demand, they will then impose their own tariffs. It's out of our control. We cannot subject our people to this. You know, running a water business, it's like, think about it. Everybody needs water. And if we can't make a business successful out of selling water, then I don't think there's anything in this world that we can make a success of. Because water is something that every human being needs. And yet, in this business model, we are finding that we are constantly have to borrow money. I am not convinced, Honorable Chairperson, that to create this model to borrow more money is going to solve our problem, especially when I'm not convinced that we're not closing the holes in the way money is being lost in this department. That is the reality. And the truth of the matter is, when eThekwini rejected the model to finance Umkomazi Dam, I was there. I was a member of the board of Umgeni. I was also a member of the Committee of Infrastructure in eThekwini. And I led the charge to oppose these increases because it was exorbitant, the cost to be able that's being transferred to the consumer. Now, it's easy for us, and I appreciate, and I want to honestly appreciate the department's role in trying to manage its books. What it does is it looks at the laws, it simply looks at laws, and that's about it. But we, and I'm speaking to my colleagues here, we are representing the people of South Africa. We have their interests at heart. We don't necessarily look at the law. We don't necessarily look at how we're going to balance the books, but we've got to be realistic. Can people afford? Because that's where you're expecting the money to come from. And when you don't get that money, then I'm afraid that our infrastructure, like dams, which we are using as collateral to secure these loans, they will get into the ownership of the lenders. And that is my fear. We can't sell away our national assets, Honorable Minister. That's something we cannot do. Thank you very much.
Minister?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Reddy. Honorable members, we note your concerns. And I must say, your concerns, Honorable Reddy, Honorable Malo, Honorable Mo, they make sense. They are genuine. However, we have in life, we have to take well-calculated risks. Because as you said, Honorable Reddy, that everyone needs water in the country. And we must build more water resources so that we can have the capacity to abstract more water and to supply bulk water to municipalities through the water boards. With the financial cliff that the country found itself in, that is why the law allows us to borrow money. And we think that if we are bringing together the TCTA, the WTE, as well as the department, will have more capacity of ensuring that the collection of revenue in terms of paying the debt and servicing the debt will be dealt with. But I don't want to dismiss any caution that is put forward here by the honorable members. If we had enough money as a country, Honorable Reddy, we're not going to go through that process because the fiscal will be able to fund. As you know that we have mega projects that are supposed to be completed. How are we going to complete that if we don't go through this route? Your concern on using our national assets like dams as collateral, that is the way to go when you borrow money. Even if you borrow money personally, you'll have to put your house as a collateral. You have to put to the asset that you have just for the financial markets to trust you and have a hope that you are going to repay. But as I said earlier on, there's nothing without risks. DG and CFO can fill up. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
DG?
Thank you, Chairperson. The only additional point I'd want to make, Honourable Reddy talked about the need for water to be run as a business and for the water business to be run well. But any successful business borrows money to invest in their business and pays off that money from revenue from the sale of water. That is exactly what we're doing here. We're establishing the NWRA to run national water services as a business properly, as a successful business. Also, I just wanted to comment about the cost of Umkomazi Dam. South Africa is a water scarce country. I have said this previously in PC meetings that we have already captured more than 75% of the opportunities for capturing surface water sustainably in dams in the country. When we built dams over the last 150 years or so, the engineers, for very good reasons, chose the cheaper places to build the earlier dams. The remaining opportunities for building dams are the more expensive opportunities. Umkomazi Dam is expensive because South Africa is a water scarce country and there aren't many more opportunities left for capturing surface water in South Africa. That's the reason why it's expensive. It's the reality that we have in South Africa, that it's going to become increasingly expensive to develop new water resources and provide them to citizens. There's no way of getting around that. It's the physical reality of living in a water scarce country. And the money has to be found for that from somewhere. Thank you, Chair.
Can I quickly, DG, just ask on the same question that Honourable Reddy has asked? Is there ever been a time since 1986 that TCTA could not honour their repayments, that they had to be bailed out by Treasury? Thank you.
Frans, I believe the answer is no, but Frans, can you confirm?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. DG, you are correct. We never had any default. We have consistently been able to pay TCTA to enable them to honor their loan obligations. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So that's more or less a 40-year track record of good governance concerning payment. Honourable Reddy?
Chair, I hear you, but times have changed. In 1984 or 1986, you had a water department that only focused on the minority, small group of people. After 1994, it's now been increased, water for all. And it's put an added pressure on the existing system. So today, you cannot compare what has happened the past 40 years. My concern still is the way that we are responding. You know, my lovely minister there, Honourable Minister, the beautiful minister, is saying, even in your own home, you have a situation, you go and you put your house on in collateral with the bank. I'm a businessman. One of the things that I've learned in business is that you don't take your assets and put them with the bank as collateral unless you are able to build a proper income stream. That's the most important thing. And when you look at the risks that have been identified here, especially by Honorable Moore and Honorable Ngumalo, you can see, and even confirmed by the department, you can see that the risk of getting that stream of income to be able to service further loans is extremely high. That is the concern. Now we can't just take assets now, go and use it as collateral in the hope that we are going to be able to get money to be able to service the debt, knowing fully well the economic climate of this country. We can't guarantee that. So I find it very difficult. I want to agree with Honorable Ngumalo. Very difficult to support this model because it's not showing us what we're doing about municipalities that can't afford to pay, about the rising non-revenue water, and about issues of aging infrastructure that's collapsing, which obviously cannot be replaced. If those things are not addressed, there's no guarantee of us ever being able to service even more debt. Remember what I said, 1.2 billion rands every day is being paid by our government just to service debt. 22% of our national revenue is going to service debt. Now we want to add to that without plugging the holes? No, Honorable Chairperson, that's going to be very difficult to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Reddy. Honorable Kehakilwe.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Minister, DG, and the team, officials from the Parliament, and honorable members. Let me welcome the presentation, Chair. It is just straight to the point, straightforward, and looking at our water situation in South Africa, I really think that we need to support whatever that the department is trying to put in place to address our water situation. And the issue of the establishment of NWRIA, it is not a new thing. It started even before last year. And we've been discussing it. And the department has tried to make it easy for us to understand what is going to happen. They even went to an extent of presenting the project plan. From what it has been presented, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. South Africa will be able to deal with these issues of our infrastructural issues. There's a clear terms of reference for this agency, of which, for me as a person, I think the terms of reference for NWRIA is going to assist us. We can think that it's not possible, it's risky, but we need to start doing something to make it a point that water is provided to our people of South Africa. We cannot appear to be people who will not take a risk, who will block whatever that the department is trying to do to assist. This issue, even the president has outlined that the Department of Water and Sanitation must do something. We've got a very old infrastructure. If we are not going to allow this new entity to assist us with that, we're not going to be able to address our water shortage and to address this problem of old infrastructure. In short, Chairperson, from my side where I am standing, where I am sitting, I fully support And I wish that the department, they've come up with a very clear, feasible plan. If they can stick to whatever that is in that plan, then we won't experience any problem with regard to the establishment of this entity, NWRIA. And then based on that, I'm done with the comments. I only have one concern in the program of action. The procurement of services of multidisciplinary professionals company, which is supposed to assist with the transition and the establishment of the entity. I'm not sure if I missed that one, whether that a company has been appointed. If it has been appointed, when is it going to start? If it is not appointed, when are they going to make it a point that is appointed? Because we really do not have time. This entity must kickstart and assist us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Betty Rekhatile. Indeed, Chair, this process has long started towards establishment of this agency. It is the 6th Parliament or administration which has passed this bill, and it was ascended to law. Now, when honorable members are saying they don't support, we have technical amendments that we're putting on this, because we're at the implementation stage now. And all what members have said, as I said earlier on, they are very correct that we must watch on the risks that are involved in this matter. Honorable is very correct that let's tighten all what seem to be loose screws, but also the intergovernmental relations must also be strengthened, in that whoever is supposed to play a role in the value chain of water must do exactly that. COGTA must do exactly that. All municipalities must play their role, because if there is any municipality or any role player who lowers the bar, that will affect all of us. Because if you hear some of the concerns that are coming here are the concerns that are based on day-to-day challenges of water, which is a responsibility of a certain sphere. But what I take from the honorable members that have spoken here is to say, tighten up, work together with them, implement the resolutions that were taken. Honorable Moore was very clear to say there were clear resolutions to turn around the situation on water. And we have not abandoned that, but we had to make sure that this process of establishment of this agency comes to you, so that when you're supposed to deal with technical amendments, we do that. But the act is there. Now we are implementing the act. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. DG, would you like to add something?
Yes, Chair. On the question of the appointment of the PSP, the professional service provider, it's going to our bid spec committee this week. Hopefully, if the procurement processes go smoothly, they should be in place by August, which is the right time for them to be in place in order to be in place when we get to the critical stage of transferring the assets and liabilities, that is the assets from the department, the dams, and the loans to the NWRIA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kegakilwe, are you satisfied?
I am satisfied, Chair. Thank you. And thanks for the responses.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ramaila?
Did you show my hands, Chair?
No, I didn't, but I will recognize you. I won't forget about you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to my colleagues, honorable members, the Minister, the DG, and officials on the platform. And maybe I must also start by a disclaimer, by putting a disclaimer that I think by questioning or raising some concern, one is definitely not trying to do the work of the sixth administration. We are supporting. But the fact of the matter is that during that process, some of the issue might have slipped through the fingers. And we currently have a responsibility that by the time this entity is established, would have tried our best really to make sure that we leave nothing to chance, and we try to make a point that nothing slips through our fingers. Thank you, Chair. Now, in terms of the roadmap, for me, the roadmap must address three entities. The TCTA, which is the main entity, but from the TCTA, one would definitely, at the correct time, want to really understand, because from the TCA, what is being transferred is the debt, the salary bill, and of course, importantly, which we must not undermine, is the skill. That's going to be the skill transfer that's going to take place. But it's going to be important for us to understand what is the amount of debt combined with the salary bill. What is that? That's very important. Secondly, is the trading entity of the department. Again, in terms of the trading entity of the department, what balance sheet are you transferring? Obviously, I would assume it's a positive balance sheet, and the skill that is going to be transferred. Those numbers are going to be required to inform us. That's very critical. Thirdly, is the infrastructure branch of the department. What are the details of that infrastructure branch of the department in terms of the salary bill, in terms of the skill, and any other thing that might be unknown to us? But we must fully understand when you say infrastructure branch of the department, what do you mean by that? I think the next one would really appreciate to have a thorough knowledge and understanding of this new entity that's going to be created. We are expecting that this entity should be effective and efficient in terms of functionality. We don't have an idea as yet as to how the functional model is going to be like, or the organizational structure of that entity. Is it going to be a fat structure, a lean structure, or is going to be a structure that is ready to really change the layout of how water assets are being managed and how they generate income? I think that's going to be critical for me to understand that part. But I would also want to come back to the issue of the water boards. And I must also put a disclaimer that I have a full grasp of the functions of the water boards, and I'm not even confusing it to the new entity, because some might have a wrong conceptualization of my question in mind. That is not the case. I know very well that water boards are established in terms of Chapter 6 of the Water Services Act. For me, that is very clear. But we must also accept that in terms of governance, it is governed through PFMA, not MFMA. It must also be understood that in terms of reporting to Parliament, it is the minister who on annual basis report to Parliament about the annual reports, financial statements, and audit reports of the water boards. Now, what this does is that it relates in a legal parallelism because while it's mainly established in terms of the Water Services Act, but through the Water Act, the minister then reports to Parliament. But also remembering that these boards are not constituted physically through, by the municipalities. They are constituted by the minister, and they account to the minister. They do not account to Water Services Authorities. That's why I'm talking about the legal parallelism that exists. And I'm not sure in terms of the Water Services Act Amendment Bill, whether is it going to be able to address such. Now, what is going to be the difference also is that as compared to previously, TCTA, and I'm happy that there's never been a time when they were bailed out. It means they've been operating very well. We appreciate that. But the strength that the department had then was because they were providing guarantees to the TCTA. And that gave the department a leverage over the TCTA because assets belong to the department. Now the new entity is going to have a good balance sheet because of assets of the department being transferred to the entity. And that's a government entity, by the way, it's not a private sector. That must also be very, very clear. My worry is what leverage is the department going to have on the new entity as compared when it was TCTA, given the experience of our state-owned entities, which had good balance sheets, and many of them, it's a known fact, as we talk today, they've been run to the ground. And it is because I assume relevant departments do not have any correct mechanism to control these state-owned entities. How different will this be from the previous ones that have collapsed due to corruption, malfeasance, and all those sorts of things? Now, I think a point that I'm raising is that I would want to hear from the department what control mechanism is the department going to have over this new entity so that it shouldn't be counted amongst those that will even die before their birth because of the absence of control, proper control mechanism. That's the concern I should be worried about. But part of the issue, Chair, is that we know boards, as in the main, the work that they do as the water service providers is as when they're appointed as agents on behalf of water service authorities. But we must also accept that the department has been using water boards as their agencies as well. I can give an example. Where a water treatment works is not on the river bank, is far from the river, far from the dam. There is an abstraction infrastructure of raw water that goes to the water treatment plant. That is in the control of the water boards and many more. Now, I'm coming to a point where water boards, in as far as evolution and adaptation is concerned, with these new changes, how are the water boards going to evolve and adapt to the new environment where we have a new entity? Because these water boards had many instances got bailouts from the department and subject to correction. It might be also because of the trading entity that they got the financial muscle to do so. And that the department will be able to really make their case with Treasury so that they can be able to bail out these water boards. And amongst the existing water boards as we speak now, quite a number of them are not financially sustainable. What is then going to be the future financial sustainability of these existing water boards, except those that are obviously public knowledge that are very, very sustainable? Now, in the absence of the balance sheet having gone, possible balance having gone to the new entity. What leverage is the department going to have to bail out these boards that are not sustainable? And they are also not sustainable. One fact is that municipalities are not paid. But the other fact we all know is the fact that the current financial model of the municipalities is not working. But we also know that in terms of the economic status, people on the ground, they are unable to pay their services. Those are the broader facts that I think we need to take into consideration. And I'm in support of the new entity. I have no doubt about it, but I'm saying we are going to be remaining with boards that are going to be worse off, that are not going to be financially sustainable. And they are also partly surviving because of the department, and that responsibility is going to be taken to the new entity. In as far as the departmental infrastructure is concerned, I'm not talking about municipalities, so that people must understand me very well in this regard. Lastly, I would then want to also recommend that the roadmap be thorough. It's not thorough now, and it must include those 3 areas or entities that are going to be transferred. As I said, TCTA, trading entity, and define what that branch, infrastructure branch of department is, so that it be detailed. Not for now, for me, it's skeletal. And lastly, if we could have quarterly report on this process roadmap. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. You made a mistake to say that the department gave guarantees. It's National Treasury that gave guarantees to TCTA, not the department.
Thank you.
Minister?
Chair, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Thank you very much, Honourable Ramaida. The concerns on the comprehensive roadmap that you feel that we have not given to the committee as per our presentation right now, where you want us to also indicate on WTE as well as the branch of the department, the infrastructure branch. We'll add that information because that roadmap is all encompassing. But if there are areas which you see missing in terms of what is that you are transferring in terms of the skills from the infrastructure of the Department of Water and Sanitation, we are going to give that. But also, what is that the agency is going to inherit in terms of the skills of employees that have been working for TCTA. And in managing this, we don't want any employee to be worse off because of this establishment of this new agency. We are taking care of that, but also to outline what will be the relationship between the new agency as well as the water boards. It is human that when we discuss anything which has to do with water, there is no way that we cannot bring in the state of municipality in terms of the water infrastructure as well as their debt. We can't escape that. It will always come in. But this presentation of today was focusing on how are we taking forward the implementation of this a new agency. The DG as well as a CFO will make some additions, Chair. But we have taken a note of saying how do we avoid that the new agency is run down through a historic experiences of other agencies. I thought I tried to explain earlier on, but when you create something, if you put fears first, you might end up not doing that. But we are taking the advice and the counseling from the members of the portfolio committee. I hope for future, Chair, you will also assist us to say on this one, we advise you to add the following. We'll take that, as you know, Chair, we take that warm-heartedly and engage with that. Thank you very much, Chair.
DG?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask Bronwyn to talk a bit about what the Act says about making sure that this NWRA is well governed. When we took the bill through the previous portfolio committee, there were many meetings on the bill with the portfolio committee, and one of the focus areas of the portfolio committee was to make adjustments to the bill to address precisely this issue, to make sure that lessons are learned from the experience of other state-owned enterprises, and that the legislation for this enterprise has robust sections in it to ensure that the enterprise is well governed, and that we mitigate the risks of it turning out to be a poorly governed SOE, as has been the experience of some of the other SOEs. But I'll ask Bronwyn to talk about the various measures that have been included in the NWRA Act to address that. Yes, there have been governance problems and challenges with other SOEs, but not all of them. The TCTA itself is a very good example of an extremely successful state-owned entity. And SANRAL is also a successful state-owned entity. And in fact, if you were to compare the NWRA to any other state-owned entity, the best one to compare it to is SANRAL. SANRAL was also established with similar objectives in mind, and a very similar process was gone through of transferring ownership of the national road network from the National Department of Transport to SANRAL. And the main motivation for establishing SANRAL was similar, in that the idea was to establish a single entity which would own all the national road network, and would get all the revenue streams from the toll roads, and would be able to reinvest those revenue streams, and would also be able to raise finance on the basis of those revenue streams.
Yeah, Bo. Yeah.
Cornelius, can you please mute?
SANRAL was established with very similar objectives, and SANRAL has been very successful, and it has worked. In my view, it was the correct decision to establish SANRAL and to transfer the assets from the Department of Transport to SANRAL, and the model has worked. And they've been able to raise finance for the national road network, and we can all see the way the national road network is managed and the condition that it's in compared to the rest of the roads in the country. So there are examples of successful SOEs which the NWRA can follow as it's established. With regard to the water boards, we haven't made many bailouts to the water boards. We've only made bailouts in recent years to the water boards, to Vaal Central Water Board and to Sedibeng Water. Those bailouts were made using the department's money, using budget allocations to the department, not the water trading entity. So once the water trading entity has been absorbed into the NWRA, the department will be in exactly the same position to ask for National Treasury permission to give bailouts to the water boards if necessary. But it's not correct to say that many bailouts have been given to the water boards. Almost all the water boards have never gotten any money from us with National Treasury's approval from our budget. They're completely financially self-sustaining. It's only the former Sedibeng Water, Magalies Water, and Vaal Central, which have gotten some money from us with National Treasury approval, and that money has come from our budget that we get from National Treasury, not from the revenue from the sale of water in the water trading entity. So our relationship with the water boards will continue after the establishment of the NWRA. It won't be affected by the establishment of the NWRA. And none of the water board's infrastructure that they currently own will be taken over or transferred to the NWRA. All of that will remain as it currently is. Frans, would you like to add anything? And then Bronwyn?
Thank you very much, DG. Just to add on the issue of both Citibank, Mahalis, and former Bloom, as you've correctly outlined, the financing was to do with the disestablishment, and which, as you have correctly indicated, was financed through the approval of National Treasury. And then we will be able to provide, I think Minister indicated, all the detailed schedules. We can also confirm that we do have separate information for the WTE, as well as the balance sheet that the Honorable Ramaila was referring to. The numbers are there, and we'll be able to provide the committee with those. I just don't want to go through them, but we do have those. Our preliminary figures as we close the past financial year, we're sitting at 120 billion on our total net assets. But we'll provide, as advised by the Minister, all the detailed information. Thanks.
Bronwyn?
Thanks, DG. So just to confirm, the governance chapter of the Act was very comprehensively drafted to ensure sound governance of the agency and to ensure that the agency will function as a good corporate citizen with the board as its accounting authority, acting in good corporate spirits and following the codes and all the letters of the law that are applicable. We have reaffirmed in the Act the company's laws, for example, pertaining to the fiduciary duties of the board members to ensure that the board will at all times exercise the utmost duty of care and diligence in performing their functions in relation to the agency. They will be entering into a shareholders compact with the minister to ensure their performance parameters. Should they act outside of or required to disclose any financial interests, that is also reaffirmed in the Act. There is also a clause pertaining to the recovery of improper benefits, should there be such incidences where even criminal charges can be laid against a board member should they have acted in a manner that merits such recovery. They've been held accountable for the validity of decisions that are taken. And in addition to these clauses in the governance chapter, they will be reporting in Chapter 4 to Parliament on the financials, etc., just as the other entities will be reporting, as well as the ability for the minister to conduct financial investigation into the agency, the affairs of the agency, as well as the financial position, should there be such a need, and to recover from the agency the fees and disbursements paid for such investigations, etc. There may also be interventions by the minister that will be taken should the agency not perform in its duties and its actions. The minister can, in this instance, issue directives to ensure the performance. Alternatively, should it be such a state that may arise, the minister may also appoint an administrator to assist the agency in reaching its state of performance and taking accountability for the actions that it's required to perform. There is also an offences clause should there be any person that causes the agency not to perform as it is mandated to. Thanks, DG. So those are several interventions and several mechanisms that are embodied, in fact, in the legislation that will cater for the performance of the agency and to hold accountable the board as the accounting authority of the agency.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Honorable Ramaila.
Thank you, Chair. Just to allay the fears of the Honorable Minister, we are not lamenting a stillborn child, but what we want to make sure, Minister, is to prepare a very good, sound baby shower to welcome this child. So for that baby shower to happen, we must make sure that we go through all the necessary preparations. Now, on the matter of legal parallelism, in as far as the governance of the water board is concerned, whilst they are established in terms of Chapter 6 of the Water Services Act, well, maybe it's a matter that Chair, I'll be fine if it can be presented in the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Dictebe, can I allow Honorable Tlelanga and Makaola, and then I'll come back to you?
No problem, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Tlelanga.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the Minister, the honorable members, and the departmental official. Honorable Chair, the disadvantage of speaking later is that some of the areas of clarity or questions have been asked and responded to. But pardon me, Chair, on that. Honourable Minister, I must say that given with the challenging of the need for water in this country, including on getting the best ways to deliver on water so that our people, especially those in rural areas, receive clean drinking water. That on its own makes me to fully support the idea or the topic at hand today. But rest assured, Minister, we won't just support it without questioning it. And we question it with the main that it delivers on what it was intended to. The first issue I want to speak to is the question of which was raised by the first honorable member here, Honorable Kobe, the asset register, when you're dealing with all this whole transfer process. It's important that you will have to, at the right time and moment, to finish the committee with such. I can't say now is the question because it was asked and responded, but I'm emphasizing on that. The other issue that I also want to speak to is the question of the roadmap, which you have also already responded to. What I would like to, like Honorable Ramaila at the end was able to say what is it that has to be done, is that as the committee, we will have to be finished with the asset register, as well as the progress report on this good work, on how far it is. Those are the areas that I wanted to comment to. Otherwise, I'm covered by honorable members on the questions that they've raised. Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Minister?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much to Honorable Tlelanga. Honorable members, as I said earlier on, all of you, and me included as a public rep, we ought to be concerned and give clear indications where you think that we must be alert in terms of the risks that are to be mitigated. We take that warmly, and we are going to ensure that we tighten such. I take it again as an important point that we must ensure that we level the playing field prior to the agency being in place. That is what Honorable Ramaila has said, and now is emphasized by Honorable Dlelanga. The assets register to be furnished to the committee that will be done to further expand the roadmap so that the roadmap is very detailed on what is going to happen with WTE, what is in there in the infrastructure of the department that we are bringing to this new agency. That will be done, Chair. We appreciate and that we must also avoid this agency to come as a stillborn. Hence, we had to come to you, Chair, and update you in advance and also get proper counseling on certain issues that we must look at. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. DG, would you like to add something? It was not really questions, it's already been answered.
No, I don't need to add. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ditebe, are you satisfied with the response from the Minister?
Yes, Honorable Dlelanga is satisfied because in the main, it was not questions, it was just emphasis. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Makaula? Makoti, it's your turn now.
It's so nice to hear you calling me with my other name.
I like that.
They remind me of my mom.
Okay, it's guys. Honorable member, please continue.
Good morning, Chair, and nonke lapho ama-presenter lapho
Greetings
nabahloneli.
to all the presenters and honorable members.
Ngizocela
Honorable
after.
Honorable Makaula, can you give me a second? Honorable translator, could you maybe just wait till she's completed and then you can do the whole translation, please? Thank
Yes,
you.
Chair.
Continue.
Okay, Chair. Ngiyezwa ngibonge futhi nohlelo lolu olusha lwe-National Water Agency. Kodwa, nginokwesaba. Ziningi izinhlelo zizanywa sibhekwa just ukulwisana nalesi sihlava esibhekene nomhlaba wonke othinta amanzi. Especially kulento yama-water board. Nginenkinga and ngibona sengathi if kungaqiniswa isandla kubonakale kulandelwe omasipala babhekwe ukuthi ngabe bawucabangela kanjani umphakathi ngoba phela i-water board ama-water board umsebenzi wabo uqoqa amanzi emfuleni bafake emadamini bese yaklina kuze ahambe amanzi aye kubantu okusho ukuthi kufanele bakhokhelwe ngoba la kusuke kuyimisebenzi. Kodwa manje ngibona mina njalo losikhuluma into eyodwa ngoba omasipala ibona kanye laba abasifeyila kakhulu ukuthi bangafuni ukukhokhela ama-water board izimali like njengokuthi kuthiwa naka like njengomkhomazi kuyavela umkhomazi ukuthi omasipala akafuni ukusayina. Lithi elami ayikho yini indlela engenza ukuphoqa omasipala ukuthi makufika imali balandele ukuthi imali iyawenza yini umsebenzi efanele iwenzile leyo mali la ukukhokhela uma-water board ngoba Ema-water board agcina kazalimaza ungakhokhelwa kwawo, ugcina sekulimaza even izinto zokusebenza lakhe ey'balulekile, amaklinikhi, iy'kole, njalo njalo. Ngoba bavele bathi umasipala, bavele bathi labayana angeke sikwazi thina ngoba sikhokhelwe. Ngize la, sinenkinga la, engayazi ukuthi why silo siyikhuluma lento ehamba ivele le-infrastructure othola ukuthi indala. Ngicela lela limi khona omunye wethu engimzweliveza. Angisho ukuthi ngikhuluma naye as such, but kodwa ngicela ingavezwa la nto ngoba la ngikhumbula kahle kwathiwa lana sekunomshini ofikile osekuzokwazi ukuthi kubonakale nalana okhrekhe khona nala kunepayipi elivuzayo, kodwa ekugcineni lonto zange yenzeke. Lilonke ake kulandelwe imali esuke yabiwe yanikezwe labo bantu omasipala ukuthi isebenza ngendlela e-right yini, ngoba la sikhuluma ngempilo zabantu. Ngize kule ngibuyele lapha emuva, yabona if sikhuluma ngo-COGTA, sikhuluma ngenunu engenalo ikhanda engenawo umsila. Ngoba sihlupheka kangaka nje thina siyile portfolio committee ukuthi bona uCOGTA akawenzi umsebenzi ofanele awenze ukulandela umasipala ukuthi bayisa intuthuko kubantu ongaba yiwo amazwi njengoba sikhuluma. Bese ngibuyela kancane kula mbuzo kaKhoba ngalo 17 billion. Nakho-ke kuvela la ukuthi no, lo 17 billion wawuya straight kuCOGTA nomasipala. Umbuzo wami ukuyabhekwa yini kwawona ukuthi mawusebenza usebenza ngendlela, ngabe wona ukwazi ukulekelela ukuthi kukhokhelwe laba bantu noma le mali uCOGTA uzenzela amarali njengoba sesibona kwenziwa amarali njena ungazi imali iqhamuka koCOGTA. Izinto ezingihluphayo kakhulu lezo ngoba kusho ukuthi la thina sizolo sigidagide entweni A1 while abantu bakithi amanzi bengenawo, while abantu bakithi befe ibhedlela bedingela amanzi. Amanzi ayimpilo yabantu, esikoleni ayadingela amanzi, emphakathini kunabantu lana njengoba sesikhuluma nje abashintshwayo abangakwazi ukuyigqokisa, abadinga ukuwashwa, banekelwe ingubo, laba sebegula ababizwa ukuthi ama-ill, uyabo. Ingiphatha kambi lento mase njalo sikhuluma indaba yamanzi, and leko ngokukhokhelwa lento eyenziwa kulaba ama-water board ayikho yinhle kahle hle ukuthi njalo so sakhuluma into eyi-1 laba bantu abakhokhelwa imali. Akekho futhi nobalandela kuthiwa okay lo masipala siwunika imali engaka, kodwa manje le mali ayanga noma le mali igcina ikhokhela iy'poki lezi ey'gcwele komasipala. Ngiyacela ukuthi minister, wena njengoba-ke wena ugovernment we-GNU ake niyilweleni lento ukubheka ukuthi isenti nesenti lenzeni, not just hambisa imali nje egcine la bantu futhi le mali bayibuyisela back. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. Could you quickly translate, Sitole?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to everyone. Thank you for the NWRA. Chairperson, I am skeptical about the issue of the water boards. If municipalities are not scrutinized properly, we know that the water boards are doing, we know what the water boards are doing in terms of water catchments. Is there no way of ensuring that municipalities pay water board? Because at the end of the day, we find that schools, clinics, and churches end up being affected. We are told about the machine that detects cracks, but we hear nothing about that machine. Coming to COGTA, you know, when we talk about COGTA, it's like we are talking about a headless and a tailless animal. Now, on the issue of the 17 billion that has been given, we were told that that money was going to be used, but seemingly it went straight to the municipalities. Now, I am worried also, Chairperson, that what we are doing here, it's like we are repeating one and the same thing, and yet our people are suffering
instead of paying water boards. You find that people do not get water, and people who get, people who suffer the most are the ones that are in schools, hospitals, and other places. I also request the minister to make sure that every cent that is being spent is used in a proper way so that our people can benefit. Thank you very much.
Minister?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Angibonge kuwena Mama uMakhawula. Uyishaye esikhonkosini. Udaba osikhuluma ngalo la nokushilo uwamaphatha u2. Eyokuqala yile yokuthi uma siza nale agency, le agency asiqiniseke ukuthi isebenza kahle. Kodwa uthi wena Makhawula, ukuze le agency isebenze kahle, ukhona okunye kufanele ukuthi kube kuyalungiswa. And sivumelana nawe ukuthi manje lokuthi amanzi asuka ngaphi ayophela kuphi usibambe kahle ukuthi thina siyi department siyitha abalanda amanzi emfuleni siwafake sakhe idami siwafake edamini asuke lapha edamini aye ku water treatment plant amanzi awasuka lapho angena ku reservoir ayophuma epompini lapho kula kufuneka khona abomasipala kula i-water board zifika khona zibanikeze i-bulk water supply from the water treatment plant. And uphawula kahle mama uthi ukuphila nokufa kwama-water board kulapha komasipala. And thina siyi-department asinikezi abomasipala imali. I-equitable share lokwemali abayithola kuhulumeni eyimali eqoqwe ngokubhatala intela mabeyinikezwa abakhokhe. Okwesibili abakhokhele amanzi abawanikezelwe yi-water board ngoba nabo bakhokhisa umphakathi ukuze babe nemali. Okukona kungenzeki kahle Mama Khawula lokho siloko sihlala sikusho la kwi-portfolio committee ukuthi masebeyiqoqile le mali esuka ekutheni bebethengise amanzi abayithathi le mali bakhokhe ngayo, abayithathi le mali balungise abophayiphi babo abavuzayo. So ke manje ke isho ke ukusho ukuthi thina esesikwenzile esingakwazi ukwenza asikwazi kuyibamba thina imali yabo, kodwa sikhuluma no-National Treasury sithi kuyena akabambe imali yabantu labo masipala ngoba labo masipala abakhokhile. Yiyo yodwa indlela esinayo yokuthi sikwazi ukuthola imali yethu ngokuthi sibambe equitable share ibanjwa u-National Treasury ngoba sesibacela, kodwa asikwazi kuzenzela siyibambe singabanikezi ngoba abekho phansi kwethu. Engangike ngakuphakamisa ngenkulu inhlonipho la kule committee lethu ngathi nina owena umsebenzi makuza ngakithi niwenza kahle futhi nis-oversight-a kahle, kodwa kuhamba kungenelela lokhu kwamanzi angafika emphakathini. Ngaze ngaphakamisa ukuthi kungakuhle ukuthi le committee lenu Mama Makhawula likhokhele usihlalo ubaba uBhasoni mangakhe nibe nomhlangano nalaba bomasipala no-COGTA ukuthi kahle kahle COGTA ukungani ungakwazi ukuthi udlale indima yakho phezu kwalabo masipala. Le ndaba oyibeke ngakhona ukuthi amanzi adingeka kangakanani sonke sivumelana nawe kakhulu and lokhu kwalo 17 billion ngempela akuzanga kuthina kuhambe ngale kwaya ku-COGTA. Yenye yezinto noma ningenza mhlambekeni nje umbuzo obhaliwe ukuthi uminister wo-COGTA akanitshele ukuthi le 17 billion yenzeni ihambe kanjani, kodwa thina sikuzwa kahle mama uthi funeka kuqiniswe le technology yokubheka amapipe ukuthi le kuvuza kuphi i-asset e-local ye-water infrastructure ikamasipala. And laba bebeye lapha ku-indaba abavumile abomasipala bathi bona babona amanzi evuza bangawazi ukuthi avuza kuphi. And ama-resolutions ayithathwe lapha athe ake nifake le new technology khona la ekhantrini ekwazi ukuthi i-dictate ukuthi amanzi akuphi. Thina kwethu infrastructure mama Khawula kuba khona okuncane okubonakalayo sishesha siku-attende, yikho sihlala siba ne-maintenance scheduled for June, July, December, January, ngoba senzela ukuthi i-system lena yabomapipe ingaze iyeke yona ngoba seyikhathele, kodwa kufanele ukuthi simane siyisevisa. Kodwa lokho kushilo siyathatha konke and ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Makola, are you satisfied with the Minister's response?
Yes, ngiyizwa kahle and ngiyajabula ngoba uyavumelana nami. Omasipala abenze sure ukuthi bayacabanga ukuthi balida abantu. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mbiku, your hand was up. It came down before I go to Honorable Ditebe for a second round. Would you still like to ask a question? Honorable Mbiku, you are muted. All right, it seems she maybe can't hear us. Honorable Ditebe?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The last one, Chair. I think as members, it is pretty normal for us to be angst-stricken, to be concerned about the extent to which the new entity will be exposed to some risks. However, I think the creation of this particular entity with the business case that's been carefully thought through, as we were told, and adopted after National Treasury has had sight of it, developed by Ernst & Young, and all parties concerned agreeing that it is a very sound business case. It would seem to me that, Chair, based or perhaps read with your earlier question about whether the soon to be the predecessor of the NWRIA, the TCTA that is, has had any defaults. And I think going for almost 4 decades, the answer is no. And that being so, Chairperson, I think if anybody, for example, buys a new vehicle, they don't buy it with a view to crashing it most immediately after they've left the dealership. The insurances and everything else attached to that notwithstanding. So the purpose is to be mobile and be able to use the vehicle wherever they want to go. So I believe that the same philosophy underpins the creation of this entity, and with a view to obviously strengthening its balance sheet and so forth. So one is not dismissive of the concerns of members, but to take no risk in itself, in and of itself, is a risk. So if you take no risk, nothing will change. And using the analogy of a brand new vehicle that one acquires, I don't think acquisition of loans, for example, necessarily means that that is the sole purpose of the entity. It is with what the DG said about us being a water scarce country, and you and I and other members have been to Lesotho already, and we are told that there's going to be 490 million cubic meters more of water that will be available to us. But of course, we, in the whole water mix, we do not rely on Lesotho alone. So The question, therefore, that I would like to ask and a recommendation that I would like to make, Chairperson, based on the concerns of members, is the following. Perhaps let me make a recommendation before I ask the question. It would seem to me that it might stand us in a good stead if the Department of National Treasury and, say, the Reserve Bank were to present to us, in light of the concerns that members have about the bank sovereign nexus, the bank sovereign nexus, in the sense that in our country, 90% of the debt is domestic and only 10% of it is foreign. Therefore, the banks get exposed, and the asset managers, etc., so that we then deepen our understanding about the extent to which this entity, NWRIA, would be exposed, so as to also enable us to do oversight properly over it, with a better understanding of what National Treasury understands by bank sovereign nexus, the Reserve Bank, and so that we ourselves can understand that. And I think it will remove all manner of perhaps unnecessary angst, etc. And I'm saying I'm not dismissive. And clearly, Chairperson, yes, the 1.2 billion rand a day crowds out all essential services. But if that is well managed, and it is intended that in the 2026-27 financial year, that should be stabilized. But I want to say, Chairperson, to ask the following question. In terms of the volume of water that's held in private dams, is it expected that the NWRIA will then regulate that body of water, volumes of bodies of water that are held in private hands relative to what the department, and in this, by extension, the NWRIA will hold? As the DG explained, that unlike electricity, water collects in a particular location, such as what we had in the Eastern Cape, tragic as it was, where there were flash floods. But obviously, that was an advantage in terms of surface water, and there being infrastructure adequate to capture that water, then it would be to our advantage. And there have been many, many weeks that we saw across the country with dam levels going rising and river levels. So my question, therefore, Chairperson, is whether, if I'm not mistaken, I think while the number of dams that the department has an overall control over rivers, etc., that's 60% relative to those that are many that are in private hands, but just in terms of volume, that which is in private hands is lower. Is it expected that the NWRA will therefore deliberately tweak this to favor the NWRA in terms of what it controls? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
To you, Chair DG.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Ditebi. I think your first point was really a point to the committee about inviting National Treasury. But just to say, as indicated by Honourable Reddy, water must be run properly as a business. It's a sustainable business because it must be financially self-sustaining. So the NWRA must also run properly as a business in a financially sustainable way and in a financially responsible way. So the NWRA board will have to ensure that the NWRA doesn't borrow more than it can afford to pay back based on its revenues. And we, National Treasury, will be monitoring that, and I'm sure National Treasury will indicate that when the committee calls them, if and when the committee calls them. On the second issue, on the question regarding the dams in private hands, Honourable Ditebi, the NWRA is not going to have any regulatory functions. All the regulatory functions remain with the department. So the regulation of dam safety remains with the department. Anyone who builds in South Africa, a dam in South Africa, will still have to get a license from the department, not from the NWRA. The National Water Act says that anyone can build a dam, including private individuals or farmers or mines. Anyone can build a dam on condition that they get, if the dam is of above a certain size, that they get a license from the department. That will remain. That isn't changed by the creation of the NWRA. So the NWRA, when it builds new dams, will also have to get a dam construction license from the department, just like any other person in South Africa who wants to build a dam has to get a dam construction license from the department, and the department will ensure that the design of the dam is such that the dam is safe. So the NWRA will own all the dams that are currently owned by the department, but it won't have any ability or power, and I don't think there would be any motivation for it to try and take dams away from the private sector or to take over dams run by the private sector. So while most of the dams in South Africa are owned by the private sector, largely by farmers, if you look at the volume of water stored in dams, by far the largest volume of water is stored in the relatively few dams owned by the department, because the department owns the very large dams in the country. So the NWRA's role will be to continue to manage and operate and maintain those very large dams, which are crucial both to supply water for industry and to supply water for domestic use and for irrigation. And it will also raise finance to build new dams, which are similarly important, strategically important to ensure that there's raw water security in South Africa. But in the meantime, the private sector, mines, etc., will still develop dams as and when required to meet their own needs, and will have to get approvals from the department before they construct such dams. They won't only have to get approval for the construction of such dams, they will also have to continue to get water use licenses to capture water from the rivers in their dams, and also to use that water for irrigation. So that water allocation regulatory function also remains with the department and doesn't go to the NWRA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. DG, can I maybe ask, what would the working relationship be between you as the DG and the CEO of the agency concerning reporting? I know they report directly to the minister, but surely it should be interlinked, because there's a lot of functions that the department still need to do. They only own the infrastructure, but we will manage the dam safety and other issues concerning whether water can be released out of these dams. Can you maybe just give us a short brief on how you as the DG see the working relationship with this entity going forward? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Part of my responsibilities as the DG is to maintain close working relationships with all of the chief executives or accounting officers of all of our entities. All of those MDs or CEOs report to their boards, and the boards in turn are appointed by the minister and have reporting requirements to the minister. So I don't have a line of authority over the CEs and the entities, but I do have an obligation to work closely with them, collaboratively with them, and to coordinate with them. So that's what I endeavor to do as the DG, and it's what I endeavor to do currently with the CE of the TCTA. There's a lot of ways in which we will need to coordinate between the department and the NWRA, as we currently do with the TCTA, and with all the CEs of the water boards. So that's a very high level of collaboration and coordination that will need to continue. I hope that answers it, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is there any other member that would still want to ask a question before we close this meeting?
Yes, Chair.
Honorable Mbiko.
Thank you, Chair. And good afternoon to all the members. All what I wanted to comment about, Chair, is that I note that the TCTA board term will be extended to ensure a smooth transition. Is the CEO term also going to be extended? And when does his contract ends? That's all what I wanted to know, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Let me start by acknowledging the question by Honorable Mbiko, and thank you very much, Honorable Mbiko, for that question. Yes, indeed, we are going to transfer the term of the board, as you have correctly said, that because we want a smooth transition. The term of office of the CE will only end when it was supposed to end. It cannot be terminated halfway. But let me allow the DG to fill up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have the details of the exact expiry date of the CEO's contract. It's not necessarily linked to the board's when the board's term of office ends, but the CEO's contract has been extended previously, and it would make sense if the board's contract is to be extended if the CEO's contract runs out before the NWRA is extended. It would certainly make sense to extend his contract so that there's continuity up until the completion of the transfer to the NWRA. Eustacia, I don't know if you have the details at hand, if you would like to add.
Sorry, Didi. The CE's board term of office has been extended until the current board's expires. I think plus I think it's for 5 years, and it was extended last year. But in terms of appointment of the CEO for the new NWRA, the ACNEX is prescriptive of how to appoint the CE. So I think there will have to be a transitional period around that. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so what I understand is that the CEO or the CE will be the CEO of the new board till his term expires, and or another arrangement has been made by the new board. Is that correct, DG?
Chairperson, the Act says that prescribes a process both for the appointment of the board and for the appointment of the CEO of the NWRA. So we have to follow the Act, and the board has to go through a process to appoint the CEO of the NWRA, an open competitive recruitment process in consultation with the Minister. The CEO of the TCTA, as anyone else, will be entitled to apply for that position if he wishes to do so. But the Act prescribes that process has to be followed for the appointment of the CEO. But it certainly makes sense that the CEO's contract should be managed in such a way that he remains in place as the CEO of the TCTA until the TCTA is abolished. Sorry, not abolished, until it's closed down, and once the transfer to the NWRA is completed.
Thank you for that information, DG. Honorable Mbiko, are you satisfied?
Yes, Chair. I had your explanation. Otherwise, I'm okay. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since there's no further questions, thank you very much to the Minister. I'm not sure whether the Deputy Minister is still on, but thanks to him as well to be present. DG, you and your personnel, thank you very much for explaining to us the working of the new agency. All of the best with the transition to the new agency, and as the committee has requested, please could we have maybe quarterly progress reports on where we are with the agency, so that the members of Parliament is also well understood, or will understand the whole process going forward. Thank you very much for today's meeting, and I would now ask the Minister whether there is a last word from your side before I close the meeting.
No, the last words, Chair and the members of the Portfolio Committee want to thank you very much for really being robust, especially on the risks that might be involved in the transition period as we establish the new agency. We have taken note of that, Chair, and we are going to ensure that we put more energy and pressure in ensuring that all goes well. But we really thank you very much, Chair, because your robust engagement was to make us to be more wiser as we enter these uncharted water. But thank you very much, Chair. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. This meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.